Today we're talking about the X-E4 and why you should. No, today I'm not gonna tell you why you should buy this camera, but today it's about why you shouldn't. Or let's say why you have to think twice before you're making this investment. Hey, what is good everyone, Chris here, welcome back to the channel, and today we're at the, let's say, last video of the X-E4 because we don't have the camera and I can tell you more, but I don't think it feels natural and right for you to listen to someone who doesn't hold the camera. So this is the last video, and everything that I'm telling you, this is pretty much a disclaimer. It's based on the specs and whatever I saw and whatever I investigate about this camera. So take it with a grain of salt. But let me tell you today why you should think twice if you're thinking about buying the X-E4. Now let's start with the design, and there are a few things that I already talked about, but for some might be important, for some, might just pass as not important, and that is your preference. For me, the lack of this little grip right here that can help you hold the camera, again, this is the X-E3, and the X-E4 is missing this, though the look it's, let's say, more clean and it looks more Leica-ish. This grip is very helpful, especially if you're not thinking about buying a third-party grip, that there will be probably tons on the market, as well as the Fujifilm grip that they put up with the release of the camera. It's, I think, a leather grip that you can put on just because the X-E4 has a flat face as well as the back. Also, this notch that holds your thumb every time you're holding the camera down, or if you're trying to shoot and balance the camera, this is very helpful. That holds the quick menu and autofocus lock on the X-E3 is missing on the X-E4. They switch the buttons. We talked in our previous videos. I'm gonna put them somewhere right here so you can watch if you didn't already. Also, if you didn't subscribe to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I saw a lot of people watching these videos and they don't hit that subscribe button. It's not that hard. Just press it, press the notification bell so you'll be notified when I'm putting videos up. And let's get back to the video. Now, another point in terms of design is the fact that they removed some buttons on the X-E4. Now, the X-E3 and pretty much any other Fujifilm camera that is built for, let's say, an intermediate shooter and beginner does have this switch right here, this autofocus mode switch that you can switch from autofocus continuous to single shot to manual. Well, the X-E4 doesn't, and that might be a downside, as well as the fact that they removed the auto button. That is very helpful, especially for those who are starting in photography and they're trying to understand the camera and do something with it the moment they grabbed it. Because if you don't know anything about photography and you're grabbing this camera and for some reason it's in manual or any other mode, you won't probably know why your photos are black or they're burned or something like that. So that button is missing as well as the view mode button on the top that switches between the EVF and the back screen. It's missing as well, so you will probably be able to do that in software somewhere inside the camera. But for now, that is not a thing for the X-E4. So if ergonomically you're thinking of having something that can be easily controlled through buttons, the X-E4 lacks a few of them that I personally hate, but they decided to go that again to have this beautiful flat design, more like an SLR, an old film camera. Now, I often talk about how cumbersome it is to have the SD card in the battery compartment, not only because it's hard to take the card out. Now, I got used because I'm using the X-E3 a lot and I can pretty much put the card and take it out without looking at it. But it's a little bit, weird to press all the way with your nail inside and get the card out, or get the battery out first and then get the card out. I think that that is a flaw in design, not necessarily with Fujifilm, because there are other companies as well, and they should get away from this and just put a flipping door or something that will help you access the SD card easier. Now, most of these things are because I was expecting improvements and I didn't. So if you are in the same boat with me and you were expecting something different, probably you will appreciate this video. If it's your first camera, you won't probably notice all this. It's like I always say, somebody's garbage might be your treasure. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. That's very important. Now, as a wedding and street photographer, a guy who is trying to get into landscapes and shoot more landscapes and outdoors because I love nature, I always consider a camera that has weather sealing. Not necessarily going towards all the cameras that have a weather sealing, but that is a bonus, and I appreciate if the camera is sealed against the elements. The X-E4 it's not, and the X-E3 is not either, so that's no improvement here comparing to the X-E3. There are lenses though that they have weather sealing and you can use on the X-E4 and create a little bit more seal between the sensor and the mount and the lens mount, and protect the sensor a little bit more. But I think that in 2021 most of the cameras above $500 should have weather sealing. I know it's not very easy to go with that, but it's just a rubber sealing that they put around the mount. I don't know if that costs that much. Maybe the process, maybe the manufacturing process, it's more difficult. But I believe that that should be a standard in 2021. Unfortunately, a X-E4 doesn't have it, so I'm not gonna say it's bad. I'm just gonna say that if you're thinking about having a camera to go outside all the time and shoot in any kind of conditions, X-E4 might not be for you. And because we talked about the battery compartment, I think that another good point is to mention that the battery didn't change. We are still using this old W126S battery. I think it's an ancient battery now, and Fujifilm came up with a new one. I think it's the 125 or 120. I'm not sure for the X-T4. I don't have the X-T4, but yeah, that battery apparently holds a little bit more than this. This one actually holds better than this one in many aspects, even video. So I think that this battery should be upgraded soon, and I hoped that the X-E4 is gonna have the X-T4 battery, but unfortunately it doesn't. This one holds around 280 shots. They advertise around 380 shots, but from my experience you're getting around 300 shots depending on your style of shooting. Also, let's say around 40 to 45, maybe 50 minutes of shooting video, depending if you're shooting 4K or 1080p. I'm not sure if this is Fujifilm's path to keep these batteries small. I know that the cameras are small, but they need to find a little bit more place and a little bit more space inside these cameras to put a little bit bigger battery, because that is very important, especially for professionals. For example, when I'm going to shoot street photography, I'm out from dawn to dusk, and I'm trying to shoot as much as I can, because it's not my, let's say, main source of income, but I do enjoy having personal projects and shoot street photography and enjoy telling stories. That's my thing. I used to be a photojournalist, and these batteries are holding me back a little bit. I have to carry 4 or 5. I was hoping that the X-E4 is gonna have a new battery, but apparently it didn't. So for those of you who are bothered by the fact that you have to carry 4 or 5 batteries with you, I think this is something that will hold you back buying the X-E4. Now, internally, the X-E4 provides the same sensor as the X-T4, the X Pro 3, the big brothers, and the image quality is undoubtedly one of the best. Also, this sensor is backside illuminated, and low light images and low light capabilities are definitely increased, so you won't have a problem here. But there are a few things about what's inside that I want to tell you about, and that might hold you back a little bit. First is the EVF, and the EVF is the same EVF like the one on the X-T3, same resolution. I was hoping for an improvement, because this EVF, it's not the best on the market, and I wasn't hoping for the best, obviously, because it's a mid-range camera, but I was hoping for something a little bit better with more resolution, something that will provide you with more sharpness every time when you're using it, and be easier to manual focus if you're trying to use that, or if you're using vintage lenses on your cameras. Nonetheless, it's not better than the X-E3, and that for me is a downside, pretty much a big one, because I was hoping to have a better EVF in the new iteration. Well, it's not, and I'm not sure why Fujifilm decided to keep the cost down, you know, stripping the most important part of a camera, the EVF, the one that you're using to frame your photos mostly, or most of the people do. Probably they intended, because this camera has that flippy screen, they thought that people were gonna use it more and more, and the back screen is a great resolution screen. So I'm not sure, but for me the EVF is important, and it kind of keeps me from buying the camera because of that. Like I said, I was hoping for better. So yeah, it depends on your style of shooting. It depends on how you appreciate screens. If you like to shoot, through the back screen, or put your camera up to your eye. And I think that this is a little bit disappointing. I've seen a lot of manufacturers doing that, and not upgrading that little screen that we're actually using to frame our photos, and we're hoping for great quality. It's not the right thing to do, in my opinion. Another reason to stay away from the X-E4, or think twice when you're buying it, is that it's using the same sensor as the X-T4 and X Pro 3. And if you already own one of those cameras like I do, you'll probably think twice. It's a smaller camera that can do different stuff than let's say big brothers X Pro 3 and X-T4. But if you have one of those, you already know the image quality, you already know what it can do. Why would you buy the X-E4 if you already have the same sensor? There is no improvement here. There is nothing that adds up to the X-E4 capabilities that makes it better, or at least upgraded in terms of quality, than the X-T4 or the X Pro 3. I don't know, if you were hoping for a new sensor, if you're hoping for something improved in terms of electronics and the pixels inside the camera, it didn't happen with the X-E4. Will probably happen with the new iteration of the XT line or the X Pro line, hopefully, or maybe they'll come up with that H2 that everyone is expecting, and I'm hoping to have soon. And another reason, and the last one, is more like an advice. I mean, if you have the X-E3 like I do, and you enjoy the camera and you're happy with the results that you're getting out of it, why not saving those $1,000 or $800 and buy a lens or two or three, depending on what you're going for. So if you don't feel forced in upgrading your body, the X-E3, I think that the X-E4 can save you some money, and you can put it towards a most important thing actually in photography, a piece of glass. And the better the glass, the better the quality. For those of you who don't know that, it's not news for sure, but the glass is more important than the body itself. A good glass, a good lens will provide you more image quality and color rendition than just a body with all the bells and whistles like we're having these days. So guys, this is pretty much it about the X-E4 and why you should think twice if you are in the market of buying or upgrading your X-E3, because this video was more like a talk about upgrading the X-E3 to the X-E4. I know that those of you who are not into the Fujifilm ecosystem yet will probably consider the X-E4, and I will definitely advise you to consider it, because it's an amazing camera. By the specs, again, I don't have it, but I know the sensor. I have it in my X Pro 3, and the quality, the image quality out of this sensor, it's great. The low light performance is good, the autofocus is good. So I don't see a point or not buying the X-E4 if you are jumping into the Fujifilm's ecosystem these days, or if you're trying to upgrade for an older camera, like let's say an X-T10 or an X-T20 or an X-E2 or an X-E2S. I think the X-E4 has all the bells and whistles that you need. Plus it does have that video capability of shooting 4K up to 30 frames per second and the 1080p up to 240 frames per second in slow motion. It shoots 4:2 via HDMI, so you have them all. But if you have the X-E3 like I do, you probably need to think twice and reconsider your options, because they might be important to realize how much money you're saving if you're skipping this upgrade and go for the next one, maybe next year or in 2 years. I think the X-E3 will be able to hold for another 5 years at least. The sensor is good. It's a 24 megapixel sensor, CMOS 3, just like in the X-T3. So it is exactly what we're hoping for. Guys, thank you again. I hope you enjoy these videos. If you do, share them with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I'm putting videos up. Thank you again for being here and commenting, and let's create this community. Put your comments in the box down below and let me know your opinions about the X-E4. Would you buy it? Would you not? And stay focused, my friends. I will definitely see you in a bit.